Go. Can you guys hear me now? I think you guys should be able to hear me now. Oh, how's everyone doing? How's everyone doing? We have a very, 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 very powerful eclipse just hours away. The new moon solar eclipse in Aries is about to take place in about 4 or 5 hours from now. It is a big one. We are officially in our first eclipse season of 2023. The next eclipse will be in Scorpio, the full moon in Scorpio happening on May 5th. I'm not going to talk about that one right now, because I'm going to be having Mary on the podcast and we'll go very deep into that one. I'm just going to focus on the solar eclipse that is happening in a few hours. And this is big. I have been really feeling like this Aries energy is going to be a massive theme for this year, not just because the nodes are shifting in July out of Taurus, Scorpio, and moving into Aries, Libra, but because we just had a new moon in Aries last month, and now we have our second new moon in Aries. So there's an extra energy here of describing why Aries is important for us to be focused on. This is a big theme that's coming up. So it does feel like the biggest message that I'm going to deliver for this particular solar eclipse is it does feel like a massive fated shift in power is coming. Remember, solar eclipses don't reveal everything up front. It usually unfolds over the next 6 months. And solar eclipses tend to affect the collective more so. Moon is about the people. It's more personal, right? It's about inner. So when we have a lunar eclipse, it does tend to affect us more internally and more personally. Solar eclipses tend to be more outwardly. So I don't even know where to begin. There's so much to discuss here. Okay, first of all, what's really important to talk about here is Aries is all about new beginnings. It's the first sign of the zodiac, and it represents our identity, who we are. It represents how we assert ourselves in the world. It represents the physical body. It represents being willing to have courage, to take risks, to go out on a limb, to take a new adventure. And with it being a new moon and it being in Aries again, and the second new moon of this astrological new year, there is something very big about a new fated shift in your life, a very big chapter that is beginning here. And it does revolve around who you are as a person, your own identity, and all of that. Now, Mars, the ruler of Aries, is currently in Cancer, but it is conjunct the star Sirius. And as I said, Mars does represent our ambition. It represents our drive. It represents our physical body. It can also represent conflict and war. So it's it's an aggressive planet. There's a lot of energy here. Sirius, however, is also themed and have the energies of both Mars and Jupiter. So we're getting some double Martian energy off of this solar eclipse. And I want to say that Sirius also represents ambition and pride and fame and leadership. In fact, every time that there was the star of Sirius, also when it reached its heliac rise to the ancient Egyptians, it represented the beginning of the year, the beginning of the Egyptian calendar year. And so there's something really powerful about something initiating and beginning that even goes back to ancient times. And when we talk about leadership, I will say that, and I've discussed this with you guys on the Alchemy call on the Sunday of this month that we had it, that I do feel like there's going to be some sort of leader that is affected by this solar eclipse. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen in the news in the next couple of days. I mean, it could, but I don't exactly anticipate that. I anticipate something to unfold over the next 6 months that would possibly denote their fall from leadership. And I'll get into why. Well, I will say right now, one of the reasons why I think that's going to be happening is one, this, especially when there were eclipses around the Sirius star, or if the Sirius star was involved, Egyptians would use that to predict mundane astrology, which is like stuff that is happening in the world. And so also Jupiter is close to the sun and moon during this eclipse, but it's about 5 or 6 degrees away from the sun and is making Jupiter invisible. Now, eclipses tend to, what this is doing is it's making the sun invisible, right? It's a solar eclipse, but it's also making Jupiter invisible, because it's already invisible by the sun. And Jupiter does represent the king in astrology. It represents a leader. It represents even the husband. So because Mars is here, I just feel like there's going to be some sort of masculine leadership shift in power coming. There's going to be a dramatic shift in power coming with someone. I don't know who. I can't say who, but I definitely feel like that's something to kind of be on the lookout for. Now, what's really interesting about this new moon is that it is happening at the 29th degree. In fact, it's happening at 29 degrees and I believe 49 minutes, which is the anaretic degree. And it's a degree that represents the moment before everything shifts. It's the transition, and it usually represents a crisis before something is born. And Pluto is also known for crisis, and Pluto is squaring this new moon and the sun, and as well as the nodes. And Pluto squaring the nodes is a big, powerful theme for this entire year. We're going to be feeling that all the way up until October. And that's going to be playing out quite dramatically for a lot of us in many ways. I mean, Pluto is very dramatic. Pluto's about to go retrograde in 10 days. And when Pluto goes retrograde, Pluto intensifies even more. So you get the most intense planet getting even more intense. And so there's a lot happening here. So when we talk about the 29th degree, we're talking about karma. Okay. We're talking about transition. We're talking about fated events. Absolutely. And eclipses always bring fated events. We're talking about the nodes. The North Node represents your destiny. And with the North Node getting ready to leave Taurus and enter into Aries, we are seeing a very deep shift in power for us personally. And what is so cool about all of this, as we understand, Aries is all about your identity. I did not plan this. I promise you I did not plan it. This is how it always happens for me, though. I never, my friends, they just laugh because it never fails to happen. But solar eclipses take about 6 months to reveal and plan. And depending on how powerful of an eclipse this is for you, it could even reveal the next year of unfolding for you. But as many of you know, I've been talking about the Forbidden Journey Retreat. And I'd like to announce that it is officially, tickets are on sale. I have reached out to all of you who signed up and applied. I gave you priority access to book your tickets, and some people already have. There aren't that many tickets to go. I only have a total of 10 to give, and some have already been claimed. If you are interested in coming to Breckenridge, Colorado, September 28th through October 1st, the details are in the show notes below, in the description. Cormac or Suiterbug, if you can drop the link for the Forbidden Journey Retreat, all the details are going to be there. I don't want to use this video to go into too much of it, but here's the really cool thing. As you guys know, the Forbidden Journey is all about reclaiming and inviting back the lost fractals of who you are. Okay, so that you can reclaim your power, so that you can discover your purpose, so that you can discover all your hidden talents and execute and show up in this world in the exact destined way, your original blueprint of who you are. And this is the new moon in Aries. The full moon in Aries is happening during this retreat. between the night of the cacao ceremony and the psilocybin ceremony. So I just want to say that there is something beautifully orchestrated here that is really highlighting the importance of what is happening with this solar eclipse. What is shifting within you that is really calling you towards your destiny? And it's calling you to step up in a way, right? Because this is about asserting yourself. Now, Mars, the ruler of this particular eclipse, is in Cancer. It is conjunct Sirius, but it is also square Chiron in Aries. And Mars is triggering the wounded healer in us. But what is so powerful, even though this is a very difficult transit, Mars and Chiron square, what it is doing for all of us is it's calling upon us to shift from being the victim in our lives to becoming the victor. And this is where we finally take a stand for ourselves and we say, you know what? I'm ready to step up. I'm ready to shift out of whatever position you find yourself in and ready to claim what is yours. It's about no longer waiting for the change. It's about becoming the change, creating the change. And I said to you guys in the Alchemy program that this particular solar eclipse is going to be difficult for anyone who's been resisting the change. If you have been anticipating it, if you have been preparing for change and knowing that this is the time to start transforming and to allow yourself to go through that death process and come out on the other side, rebirth, transformed, then you are going to find opportunities that come from this solar eclipse and unfold over the next few months. Others of you will find crisis. And it's not that, one of you is better off than the other. It's just a choice of how you're choosing to move through this or where you're aligned right now and what might be even just set up for you in your path, in your blueprint for this destiny. So Mars square Chiron is really asking a lot of us to finally heal, call home the parts of us that are forcing us, contributing and influencing us to stay in a victim mentality, and use the pain to discover your purpose. Now, what's so cool, I pulled a card before I went live and I'm like, okay, what is a really good point to drive home for this particular solar eclipse? And I kid you not, this is the card that came out. Chiron. Chiron is the card that came out. Okay. So let me read to you the message in the book. This is, of course, Chiron is the wounded healer, right? This is about wounds, teachings, and paradoxes. Chiron is a cosmic enigma. In Greek mythology, he is said to be the rejected son of Saturn, who through the pain of abandonment becomes a great teacher and healer. Such is the paradoxical nature of this minor planet. It demonstrates that our pain is a great resource. It will guide us to our deepest purpose if we are able to observe it slowly, gently, and with support. When the Chiron card appears, know that you are being called to deepen the work, to delve into the tender parts of yourself that require patience and forgiveness. Victim mentality will get you nowhere. Your past blaming. It is time to let your painful experiences serve as a beacon of light to others. Chiron reminds us of where we've been and where that allows us to go. I swear I can't make this stuff up. It's like, with Mars triggering the Chiron in the sign of Aries, which represents the individual, your self-identity, who you are, why you're here, and your physical body. And I want to say that for some of you, you will be feeling this in your body. Your body is likely speaking to you. There may be massive catalysts for healing coming through in this particular solar eclipse, that it's time to heal or look into the emotional wounding behind some of the physical illnesses that you might be dealing with. But this is the time to move from victim to victor. Now, Pluto squaring the nodes and this solar eclipse. Okay, Pluto in Aquarius sitting at that 0-degree mark. Now, that 0-degree mark has been an interesting activation point for us since 2020. That is where we had the great conjunction, okay, of Jupiter and Saturn. And so there's something that may have come up around December 2020, January 2021, somewhere in that time frame, that is also being highlighted at this time. Pluto is always about power. Pluto is always about power. It's concerned with power. It's concerned with abuse of power. It's about using your power, reclaiming it, transforming it. And there's something about your destiny right now where Pluto is it's triggering your destiny in a way to force you to look at where have you been powerless? Where is it time for you to look at your power? Have you been scared of your own power? Pluto also represents our fears. And when we talk about our destiny and this new beginning and being willing to take a risk, but perhaps you need to go through a crisis or a really big transformation, an ending to something, an ending to karmic stuff that allows you then to step into the destiny that is ahead of you, that allows you to step in fully of who you really are and claim those lost and forgotten fractals of your soul, bring them home so that you can be whole and actually utilize those parts of you to understand that they could be your most powerful assets in not just revealing what your purpose is, but executing your purpose in the highest and most divine way. Pluto is asking you to overcome your fears, to go after what it is that you want. This solar eclipse is pushing you. It is pushing you. Who are you meant to be? Who do you need to step out into this world and become? Who are you no longer going to be? What part of you needs to die and what part of you needs to be reborn in place? This is something that, again, is going to amplify this idea of crisis on the anaretic degree of 29 degrees, where this sun-moon conjunction is happening for this solar eclipse. And I want to say the people who are going to be feeling this the most are anyone who were born or have their ascendant at the very late degrees of the cardinal signs, okay, which is Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Or if you're in the very early degrees, like 0 through 3, of the fixed signs, which is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. You guys are going to be feeling it the most here. Or even if you have certain planets at this point, those are getting triggered. So what's so important here is to also understand that the nodes are in Taurus and Scorpio. Still, and what's important is the north node is highlighting still Taurus, even though it is, the moon is in Aries. It's close enough to the node for this to be an eclipse in Aries, which means Uranus, okay, the planet in Taurus, it's been there for a while now. It's been playing a big role, shifting everything financially for us across the world, really shaking things up, destabilizing a lot of things. We've all been probably encountering some sort of shakeup with our financial situation or things that we value in this world, maybe how you value yourself. But what's important is at this particular solar eclipse, Uranus is about to be conjunct Mercury, and Mercury on the 21st is about to go retrograde on top of Uranus. So Mercury, the messenger of the sky, the one who brings messages. There is something about this solar eclipse that could be forcing a sudden new contract, a conversation that takes someone by surprise. You might be receiving new information that takes you by surprise, or you might be surprising someone. There's something about this particular eclipse that is also kind of shaking things up through either understanding something more clearly, having a very important conversation, receiving new information. Perhaps there's a contract, okay, that's coming up, whether it's time to revisit the contract and shake it up, change it up, or, there's something about this that is really flavoring this even Mercury retrograde that's going to take place on Friday and go on for 3 weeks into the first 2 weeks of May, that is causing us to really look at our values. It's causing us to look at how we spend our money, how we receive our money, how we use our resources. It could have something to do with food. It could have something to do with certain luxuries and pleasures in your life that are really needing to be addressed and revisited during this Mercury retrograde. And because it's happening so close to the solar eclipse in Aries, there is something about you that's wanting to shift as an individual and change. And because Mars represents the body and Aries represents the physical body, it could have something to do with food and your health, diet, just revamping everything. There's so much potential here for drastic change. So overall, this is like asking you to really consider, how are you tapping into your power? Who are you stepping into this new chapter of your life as? And are you ready to assert yourself as that person? Are you ready to start taking some risks in the areas that you've been feeling called to and change is upon you? The Pluto squaring the nodes, this is going to be happening all year, and you're going to be feeling it all the way up until October. Which is when Pluto and the nodes will finally be kind of separating. And so Pluto squaring the nodes is really asking you, like, what is it time to let go of on that south node? What is it time to release? What karmic debts have you paid? And what are you ready to claim as your destiny? And remember, the North Node represents everything outside your comfort zone. It represents the things you're not familiar with, you don't yet really know so well. And so you're all kind of being called to step into something that feels a little uncomfortable. It feels foreign. And that triggers a lot of fears, which Pluto also represents. So a lot of us are being called to face certain fears and overcome them through this change. A lot of you are on the precipice of a very big change and stepping forward into something very, very new, very, very new. And it's, in a way, really asking you to do something you've never done before, act in a way you've never acted before, and really become something you haven't become before. And I say this because our life and our reality that we're living in is a direct representation of who you are. And if you don't like the reality you're living in, you literally have to become a different person to shift your reality. And I feel like that's what the solar eclipse is really kind of highlighting, is what is it about your reality that you don't like? Because you're getting a big push from Pluto right now to shift that. Big reality shift. It's finally about healing some wounds that you're no longer interested in contributing to the recycling of past issues over and over again. Like, I'm done with living this lesson. It's time to move on. And like it or not, you literally have to be a different person in order to become the future self version of you that's living in your dreams. It's actually living your dreams out. So if that means that you literally have to, I don't know, start waking up at a certain time every day and have a certain discipline that you execute within the first, say, 2 hours of your day, because you never do that, maybe you need to become that person. think about what it is that you need to activate and put into motion, that you have to take action around, that you don't usually take action around. Who would you become if even just for 30 days, you decided to do that? It would shift you. And here's a really interesting thing, because I just recorded an interview. I was interviewed by someone who is holding a summit, and I'll be giving you guys the details to that soon. It'll be airing in the first 2 weeks of May, I believe. And it was a really good interview. In fact, it's the first time I've ever done an interview where someone wasn't asking me the same old questions. And so you're going to get a lot of different answers that I've never really even actually talked about. And one of the things that is so important here is to understand that, if you don't like your reality, chances are there's a part of you that you don't respect. And the discipline is so important in creating your destiny, because the more you respect yourself, the more you're going to want to engage in successful behaviors that actually get you to executing and living in the desired future dreams that you've been hoping for. And so there's a lot of this coming up right now through this solar eclipse. There definitely is a fated shift in power coming. Again, and I'll say this for those of you who may be just coming in now. At the beginning, I mentioned this. I do believe that a leader of a world leader in some capacity, it could be a religious leader, it could be a political leader, it could be a spiritual leader, just because Jupiter does rule spirituality and religion, but Jupiter does also represent the king. We're going to see a radical shift in power. It feels like someone falls from grace. And this is something that would happen typically in similar situations, especially when Mars was conjunct Sirius in Egyptian times. It can lead to a leader falling from grace. So again, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's something that we may see or start hearing about over the next 3 to 6 months. So the other thing I want to say too, which is really interesting, is that Sirius, the star of Sirius, because it has that Mars and Jupiter energy in it, it does represent a lot of fire. And with this new moon being in Aries, which is also a fire sign, there have been quite a few fires that have been popping up across the world over the last week or so that are starting abnormally early. And so we could be in for a hot summer. There could be a lot more fires. And of course, we know what they'll blame it on, which is just ridiculous. But again, the sun has been extremely active over the last few months, extremely active with solar flares, solar activity. We are shifting from a solar minimum into a solar maximum, which means we're all going to be feeling that over the next couple of years. There's a lot of energy that's just really culminating with this solar eclipse at this time. So extremely powerful, extremely intense, being intensified by the fact that it's at the 29th degree, which is the anaretic degree, which is about karmic and fated events. It brings an intensity. You've got Pluto, the planet of intensity, squaring that node, and it's just about to station retrograde, what makes it even more intense. And so Pluto is sitting at the 0 degrees of Aquarius. 0 degrees is the most powerful degree of the zodiac. It's the 0 point. It's where everything is super powerful. It's always amplified. And then you've also got Mars flavoring this, which is also, the traditional ruler of Scorpio, as well as as well as Aries. And so there's just a lot of heat. There's a lot of heat, a lot of intensity. You're being pushed. You're being called upon. It's time to act. Just be aware of your own emotions. Mars in Cancer is a very passive aggressive energy. This is on a higher consciousness level. What really you're being called to is to really start understanding your own emotional needs, to take action in asserting your own emotional needs. What is it that you actually need? Okay. This is very powerful for anyone who is someone who just puts their needs last, is a people pleaser. You guys are going to get activated really big time on this solar eclipse while Mars is in Cancer and squaring Chiron right now. Like this is just truly about asserting yourself. So I'm going to leave it there, and let me know if you guys have any questions. And again, the Forbidden Journey Retreat. I am so excited to be doing this. It's truly going to be incredible. The things I have planned for you guys. I mean, it'd be so fabulous to meet some of you in person and hang out with you for 3 nights. We've got a hot tub. I'm telling you, Breckenridge is one of my favorite mountain towns because I get activated every time I'm up there. In fact, I had my first vision of an apparition of a shaman standing in the river when the water was speaking to me one night. And I had a massive activation on my sacral chakra. I don't know if you guys remember this from years ago in 2020 when I was up there. And so there's a part of me that has known the shaman has always been calling me. And this is where I'm meant to do a lot of the shamanic work that I will be doing with many of you who will come to that retreat. It's set in a gorgeous 3-story modern home. It's huge. There's a ton of space, and it's just perfect for a retreat. The stars at night are incredible. I mean, being in the mountains, you're so far away from the light pollution of the city. It's so beautiful. I have so much planned for you guys. And so if you're interested, just keep in mind that I only have 10 tickets to sell, and already a few have been claimed. And so all the details for that are in the description below. Go to the Forbidden Journey Retreat page on my website if you can't find the link down below. And I'm just trying to think, is there anything else? Oh yeah. Some of you have reached out to book services, and I've emailed you, and you've emailed me saying you haven't got the email, and then I email you back. Check your emails. If you've booked service with me and you haven't received an answer from me, I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm just having issues with email. And if you guys are looking for some guidance over the next 3 to 6 months, because the solar eclipse is so powerful and it's really calling on you to shift something very grand in who you are, I highly suggest the Soul Alignment Karmic Release session, which is on the service page of my website. That we will go into and look at what is in store for you over the next 3 to 6 months and how this particular solar eclipse is affecting you. We're also going to look at, again, what is being called to. So I think that's it. I think that's it for now. If you missed last night's podcast, I highly suggest you go and listen. Everyone in the audience in the live chat, the overall consensus was the conversation was extremely important, and it seemed to be resonating with a lot of you. It was a beautiful conversation with Ruby, and it's definitely one of those extremely powerful ones. She talked a lot about her journey with ayahuasca and having to face the darkness, going blind during ayahuasca, and what that did for her. There's a lot there. It's a beautiful podcast. And next week I will be having someone on. We're going to be talking about narcissism. Oh yeah, I know so many of you empaths out there are like, oh my gosh, how do I heal from this narcissistic abuse relationship? Or how do I put up boundaries? We're going to talk all about that and more. It's a really fun podcast. That's going to be coming out next Tuesday. All right, guys. So I think that's it. I mean, what else can I say? I'm so excited again for the retreat happening on the full moon in Aries. Okay. The full moon in Aries is happening between the first night, which will be the cacao ceremony, and the second night, which will be the psilocybin ceremony. This is the culmination of everything that this solar eclipse is bringing forward. And it couldn't be more perfect. It couldn't be more perfect for everything that this entire retreat is designed to pull out of you and catapult you into. I'm looking forward to meeting some of you in just 5 months from now. All right, guys, have an incredible evening. I will be back with you guys next week, and take care over this eclipse. Do your rituals tonight. Really set your intentions. Light a fire with this being in Aries. A fire ceremony would be wonderful. And be very intentional, especially with the Mercury retrograde happening. Just be very intentional with your words. Be very intentional with the messaging. Be very intentional with any conversations you may be having around this time. It's very important. All right. I love you guys.